is to farm in nature's image. Not to till it, not to invert it, not to force it. Don't spray it to death. Don't fertilize it to death. Do not genetically modify it to death. Understand it. Understand its synergies, its complementaries. Understand it. I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when I first met my wife, like all of you that are married here, you fall in love, it's emotional, it's wonderful. We've all fallen in love with the land, it's emotion. It's great, we need that. We never want to separate that. But the problem with it is you want your love to go into an understanding, a higher level. Like when my wife and I, as we've been married 25 years, our love is more than understanding. I understand she's in charge, everything works well. but in reality, folks, we need to understand that the ecosystem, it's in charge. It does not care about your context. It makes the rules. You need to understand how it functions. And I have told many of my producers in large settings, landowners, if you do not know how that ecosystem works and the soil works, it is still part of that prairie. It never stopped. It never stopped being part of that farm. If you do not understand, you will emotionally, the emotion that you love that land, you will still go broke because you don't understand it. You do not understand how your soil functions. I hope a lot of us here, NRCS employees, extension, our farmers, our goal is to become a student and a great observer of what's going on. And the way we start is right here with these demonstrations. I've been all over the country. I do not talk about tools until we go and do these demonstrations. I got to connect you and plug you into the land and you understanding how that soil functions. If you do not understand how these incredible microbes work, I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have a hard time farming in the 21st century. Because inputs are going to continue to go up because China and India, they want to live like Americans. We need to understand our global context. Fuel went from 2008 from $1.80 to $3.40, and it's going to continue to go up. Our country saved 2 million barrels a day, but yet fuel is so high. Why? China and India. So I told a lot of us that today we're going to learn how to manage the carbon on your farm. If I go on your operation, I'm going to look at everything from energy. It's all about energy, and the currency is called carbon. Carbon in the soil, and the carbon in the diesel pickup. That's all ancient carbon. And we have to be extremely efficient how we're going to manage, or we will not survive farming for the 21st century. That's the brutal reality that we're in. And now we're going to start. Now, I want to ask you, how many of you guys farm in here? Please raise your hand. Okay, excellent. We have some farmers. Now, would you two gentlemen come up here? Both of you guys. You guys come up here, and you guys are going to start off with a demonstration. I'm going to choose 2 more. The nice thing about it, you guys don't have to speak. Isn't that cool? Yeah, that's the good part. Okay, now, this is what I use. The reason I wanted to start off and we rushed to do this is I got to plug every one of you. And I know some of you NRCS employees have seen it, but you got to be able to use this tool very powerfully. This tool is changing our agency, ladies and gentlemen. It's not only changing our agency, it's changed RMA, and it's affecting our FSA. We actually took these to Washington, D.C., believe it or not. The Secretary of Ag, 1 week ago, was talking about soil health. We're going to change this country, and not only this country, but the planet. That's the kind of drive we have, and passion, and Scott and Becky, and some of you have displayed. We got it. So, this is how we're going to plug you in. Okay, very simple. Helen, let's get these jars a little closer. Let me give you this. This is a sod right here, and this is a no-till. And these are 2 conventional, okay? These are close body. I'm not going to tell you where we got this. We always want to keep that private. I want you to tell you, but I am a recovering soil disturber. I went through the 12-step process too. I used to till quite a bit. In fact, when I got off in the office, I was really stressed. My wife said, get on the tractor and go do some soil disturbance. If I knew what the heck I was doing, I would have been more pissed off and I would never done that. I didn't know I was destroying my soils. Okay, now, I want you to hold the sod here, and I want you to hold the no-till. Scott, how long has that been a no-till? Oh, no, sorry. Scott, how long has that been a no-till?
Probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay, have you checked the percent organic matter in no-till?
Yes.
What is it?
Probably around 1.
1%. The prairies here were 2.5 to 3%. Would you guys agree with that? The short, steep prairies. That's what I read in the historical 3%. Maybe in some cases 3.5%. I wanted to make it clear, when I go on your operation, I'm going to assume it is a degraded resource until you prove me otherwise. A shovel and a nice 30-minute conversation, I can tell where you're at. Okay? Now, here is the other soil. Now, here's the thing that was disturbing to me, ladies and gentlemen. When we go all over the country, I ask my farmers. I want to ask you guys farmers too. How many of you get a shovel and you dig into your soil and you see, you find earthworm holes, you smell the soil, it smells actinobacteria. You know that earthy smell is actinobacteria. That earthy smell is needed in the soil to help break down the calcium material and help with nutrient cycling. How many of you do that? Raise your hand. That's amazing. You're kind of the rare group. Usually it's less than 1%. Excellent. Now, let's go ahead and drop this. Now, the way this works is really simple. You guys can do this on your place in operation. To me, NRCS employees, it would behoove us to have in our truck and our pickup some glass jars, some screen, and some containers, because I got 5 minutes with the farmer. 5 minutes. If I do this with my soil thermometer and this lake test, we can have an amazing conversation and we can get you to think seriously. Now, this is the way it works. Each of these soil clouds have millions of pore spaces. Okay? And this is supposed to be done dry, and it's pretty dry, so you don't have to dry it out. We're going to drop these clouds, and water's going to rush in to fill the pore spaces. Okay? We want the soil to hold its integrity. If the soil collapses as the water rushes in, because there's going to be internal pressures being built up, if it begins to slake, that's why it's called the slake test, but I prefer the aggregate stability. Just call it aggregate stability test. We have known this test for quite a long time. Soil scientists have known about this. But it was never taught to me in college, which is disappointing. Now, we're going to drop these aggregates, these clods, into the soil, and water's going to rush in to fill pore spaces. We want to see which one does not fall apart. We don't want it to fall apart. If it falls apart, that means the pores collapsed. If the pores collapse, no infiltration. So that precious water that landed on that soil, that you got that ½ an inch, most of it stayed on the top surface, created a crust, and it evaporated. Ready? Go ahead and do it. Let's look at all the containers right there and see what's going on. And I want to know. Now notice how the conventional is all falling apart. In fact, I was going to bring you some no-till from North Carolina, but they smashed it on I had it in my suitcase. So. Now, I want you to notice, over a period of time, you're going to start seeing this falling apart. Here's the no-till. Here's the sod. Notice how far our no-till even has to go. Now, you'll watch this because this is very compacted. And really, when you're supposed to do this test, you're supposed to shake it. And what you'll do is you'll see all this fall apart and go into the bottom. Now, it's been very, very dry. Now, I noticed that my no-till is falling apart more than my conventional. You probably wonder what the heck's going on, right? Okay, these glues, these organisms feed on these glues. This soil is very compacted. As the water rushes in, it's trying to fill the pore spaces. This is the goal, ladies and gentlemen, we want to achieve. In fantastic no-till, it will stay this clear. I have done this in Alaska, Puerto Rico. I have done this all over the country. Consistently, no-till looks like this. Conventional will always fall apart. Here's another thing, organic farmers. Where will organic be, folks? Anybody have an idea? Oh, by the way, we got name tags. I'm going to call on you. Don, if I put an organic, where's that going to be? Pays the tillage, right? Guess what? The intensity of the tillage, they also fall apart. I work with some fantastic no-till. Don't fall apart. We have a lot of bad no-till out there, folks. Very low diversity. What do I call bad no-till? There's no diversity there. They're growing wheat. and that's all they grow, and they call that no-till. That's why no-till has a huge, horrible name to it. In fact, when I teach all over the country, when I mention the word no-till, everybody gets very defensive. And the environmentalists, because they spray, they know a majority of it's non-functional. And they have every right to think that way, because a lot of us reading teach no-till correctly. See, no-till is farming in nature's image. No disturbance. This is low disturbance farming. And notice, we got to be here. Even this, all of these have fallen apart. Even the no-till here can improve. When we took this out of the field, guess what we saw? Wait, what did we see? A lot of bare ground, didn't we? You got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, what are the microbes going to feed when the conditions are severe? What do they feed on? If there's no living root, what would they feed on? Wes? They feed on these organo-mineral complexes. By the way, why is tillage so destructive? Alan?
Because you're destroying all that pore space, so the organic matter is going to zero.
Yes, and how do we destroy that? Is tillage the source that destroys the glues? What do you think? How do we do that, Nate? Beautiful. So the tillage is the instigator, right? So who's doing the eating? I get a clue. Is the tillage really the factor? The tillage allows oxygen to enter the soil ecosystem. We look up these bacteria called K strategists or coprotrophic bacteria. These bacteria are needed in our soils. They're everywhere in all soils. See, here's what the K strategists and coprotrophic bacteria do, guys. The moment a manure pile falls in the soil, they multiply quickly. And they break it down. They're designed to be there. The moment the residue falls in that soil, they multiply quickly. That's what they're supposed to do. But when you till, you took a normal process and made it go bad. It will start eating the biotic glues and the cementing agents that are created by the soil organisms. John, who makes those glues? Who makes those biotic glues and organic matter? We need to know this, because if you don't know this, you're not going to be sustainable. Who makes these glues? Come on, guys. Organisms, which ones? No lunch. Who? Elmer makes the glue? Some farmers thought it was Elmer. Who makes the glues? Earthworms. Earthworms, as they're carrying out their metabolic function, they make these glues. Fungus. Fungus, arbuscular mycorrhizae, as they go out there looking for water and picking up nutrients for your plants. 80% of our plants are mycorrhizal fungus. They build this relationship. Once they build that relationship, they go out and look for the soil for water. They help you get through the drought. They help phosphorus become available. It's the mycorrhizae and the bacteria that make phosphorus soluble, and also what leaks from the roots, the acids that make phosphorus soluble. It does not happen by itself. I walked away from soil chemistry thinking, oh, it was a little magic potion that did it. We walked away thinking soil is a growing medium. It is a living ecosystem. I want to make this very clear. If you do not understand that basic principle, I cannot help you wean you off your herbicides and your fertilizers. It won't work. That's a fundamental philosophy. If you do not understand the soil as a habitat, and you have to protect it, can't help you. So mycorrhizae, bacteria, all the organisms, a majority of the organisms create these glues. Fungus, bacteria, root exudates create these biotic glues, organo-mineral complexes. They do it. Okay? Everybody with us? So when you till, you wake up these bacteria and they start feeding on the glues, and it goes off the CO2. You just, and guess what else we did? You release a flush of nitrate and you wake up the scads, nature's healers, the weeds. Weeds love nitrate. They're designed to be in the system. When I walked away from graduate school weed science, I hated weeds. I no longer hate them. They're indicator species. They're telling me you're overgrazing. They're telling me you're overtilling. They're indicators and they're the healers. They're the first plant to come to secondary succession. That's why they put a majority of their energy into seed head. And they leak very little into the soil. Normal crops will leak 20 to 40% of all the exudates to build the soil. Wheat will probably leak about 20%, but put most of the energy in seed head. So let's make it clear, the moment you till that soil, you mess up that system, you create the cancer of the soil. You took a normal metabolic process and made it go bad, and it starts feeding on itself like cancer does, until it dissolves the body. Tillage is the cancer of our land. It is the most destructive. Look at nature. She does not till. In this brittle environment, guys, you cannot afford to disturb the soil. Cannot afford it. It's too brutal. You can. I call this area no mistake farming. It is brittle. You cannot make mistakes here. Okay? Everybody with us? Remember, bacteria eat these glues. We want this.
Less glue, more glue.
Yes.
Malin discovered in '96.
Yes.
Correct.
By who?
Yes. Dr. Sarah Wright.
Yes.
From the ARS. Malin was discovered in '96, has 4 times the amount of carbon than we remember of organic matter as being humus, right? Humic acid. When glumalin was discovered, 4 times the carbon in glumalin. So when you lose your glumalin, you've lost 4 times more carbon than the other system. So that's a really important, we manage for carbon today, not necessarily nitrogen. So